She had 4 cubs to feed, a territory to defend, and no reason to show mercy to anything outside her bloodline. And yet, when rangers at a private game reserve in South Africa made their morning rounds, they couldn't believe what the camera traps had captured. A black leopard, one of the rarest big cats on the planet, was nursing a small dog alongside her own litter. Not playing with it, not stalking it, nursing it. The footage spread quickly. Scientists were baffled. The public was equal parts charmed and confused. How does the most solitary of Africa's big cats decide, of her own accord, to adopt a domestic puppy? And more importantly, what happened when those cubs grew up? That's what we're going to unpack today. The leopard in question, a melanistic female the rangers had named Nyla, was first spotted with the puppy approximately 3 weeks after she gave birth. The puppy, a male roughly the same age as her cubs, had somehow survived in the territory long enough for Nyla to encounter him. Nobody knows exactly how he got there. A stray, perhaps, abandoned, maybe separated from a nearby farm. What matters is what she did next. She didn't kill him. In fact, she did the opposite. She groomed him. She moved him with her mouth the way she moved her own cubs. She let him feed. And for the next several weeks, the cameras captured something almost impossible to rationalize. A black leopard raising 4 cubs and 1 small, very confused puppy as a single family unit. Rangers called him Dot. He was a sandy-colored mixed breed, small, floppy-eared, entirely unremarkable except for the fact that he was somehow alive inside a leopard's den. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because the obvious question is, why? Why would a predator, an animal hardwired to hunt, choose to protect prey? The answer lies in a concept called misdirected maternal instinct. When a female mammal gives birth, her brain undergoes a flood of hormonal changes: oxytocin, prolactin, estrogen. These chemicals don't just prepare her body to produce milk, they reconfigure her entire behavioral framework. The world becomes divided into 2 categories: her cubs and everything else that might threaten them. But here's the thing. That hormonal state can sometimes override the normal predator-prey calculus. If an animal is small enough, non-threatening enough, and present during that critical early window, the maternal brain can essentially file it under cub by mistake. It's the same mechanism that causes domestic cats to nurse baby rabbits, or lionesses to briefly adopt injured gazelles. A glitch in the system, biologically speaking, but one that produces moments of profound tenderness. Dot hit all the triggers. He was tiny, he was young, he smelled of milk and vulnerability, and he arrived at exactly the right moment. This isn't entirely without precedent in the animal kingdom. Bonobos have been documented caring for injured birds. Orangutans in Borneo have adopted infant otters. A lioness in Kenya was observed protecting a baby oryx on multiple occasions, even chasing away other predators that came near it. Across species, maternal chemistry has proven powerful enough to blur what should be absolute biological boundaries. What makes Nyla's case different is the duration and the intimacy. Most cross-species adoptions are brief, fragile, and often end badly when the mother's instinct eventually reasserts itself. Nyla's lasted months. But here's where the story takes a turn. As the weeks passed, the cubs grew. They went from helpless, mewling newborns to lean, fast, increasingly powerful young leopards. Their play changed. What had been gentle tumbling became practice hunting. Swatting became stalking. And Dot, still small, still floppy-eared, still fundamentally a dog, didn't grow at the same pace. Rangers began watching more closely. They'd seen this dynamic shift before in other settings. The mother's hormonal state gradually normalizes after the nursing period. The protective bubble doesn't last forever. And predator cubs, as they develop, begin to act on instinct independent of their mother's influence. The concern was real. If the cubs began treating Dot as prey rather than kin, Nyla might not intervene. She couldn't override her own offspring's instincts indefinitely, and she didn't need to. because something unexpected happened. Dot changed too. Dogs are not passive animals. Thousands of years of domestication have given them something leopards don't have, an almost supernatural ability to read social dynamics and adapt. Dot had grown up inside a leopard family. He moved differently than other dogs. He was quieter, more observant. He learned, without being taught, to mirror the body language of the cats around him. When the cubs' play turned rougher, Dot didn't cower. He didn't flee. He matched their energy in ways that confused them, not fighting back like prey would, but not submitting entirely either. He occupied an ambiguous social role that the cubs, still young and inexperienced, didn't quite know how to categorize. And Nyla, to the ranger's astonishment, continued to keep watch. She didn't intervene dramatically. She didn't have to. Her presence alone communicated something to her cubs. This one is not for that. There's a misunderstanding people often have about predators, that they are governed entirely by appetite, that a leopard sees a small dog and thinks only of food. The reality is more layered. Leopards are intelligent, socially aware animals. They communicate through scent, posture, and proximity, and within a family unit, even a temporary or unusual one, they operate within a social structure that can override pure instinct. Dot was family. He smelled like family. He had been groomed by the same tongue, slept in the same den, and carried Nyla's scent deep in his coat. To the cubs, on some level, he was simply part of the landscape of their early life, familiar, known, not prey. Dot was eventually relocated by the reserve's wildlife management team, not because he was in danger, but because the cubs were approaching the age when Nyla would begin teaching them to hunt. Keeping a domestic dog in that environment beyond that point carried genuine risk, and the team made the careful, considered decision to move him before the dynamic could deteriorate. He was placed with a family on the reserve, staff members who had followed his story from the beginning and wanted to give him a permanent home. He adjusted quickly. Dogs do. Nyla and her cubs continued their lives in the bush. All four survived to adulthood, which is itself remarkable. Leopard cub mortality in the wild runs as high as 50% in the first year. And Dot? He reportedly spent his days at the edge of the reserve's boundary fence, watching the grassland with calm, unhurried attention, more like a cat than a dog. Maybe that's the most honest ending this story could have. Not dramatic, not tragic, not the grim conclusion everyone feared when the cubs started growing up. Justice, in the quiet sense, the kind where a small, lost animal finds a mother in the most unlikely place, grows up protected, and gets to live a long and comfortable life because one wild creature chose instinct over appetite. Biology tried to make them enemies. Nyla decided otherwise. If this story stayed with you, hit that like button. It helps more people find content like this. And if you want to keep watching stories about the animal world that challenge what you think you know, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.